Hi all, welcome to the Embedded Siksha. So today we are going to talk about the big questions. What is the future of embedded system jobs in 2026? Are they growing or are they disappearing? So some people say AI will kill embedded jobs, some say embedded is out of dated, and some says there are no jobs for the fresher. So today I want to cut through the noise and talk fact and motivation, not fear, just the reality. Because here's the truth, embedded system will exist as long as hardware exists. You can see that we have the cars, we have EVs, medical devices, routers, satellite, industrial machines. So none of them work without embedded engineers. But the type of embedded engineers companies want in 2026, that is actually changing. And if you don't understand this shift, you will struggle, right? So before going into the actual topic, let's first understand the market reality. So globally, embedded engineers are growing because of nowadays we see a lot of electric vehicles, we see IoTs and smart devices, we see a lot of industrial automation is happening around, and then medical electronics also, and of course defense and aerospace also growing day to day. So this is the market reality. So everywhere you can see the need of, or we can say the requirement of embedded engineers are growing. And the best part is Indian government is now actively trying to build its own semiconductor and chip ecosystem, and the government is pushing for semiconductor fabs, chip designs, startups, electronics manufacturing, and the hardware platforms. And here's the key thing people miss: chips don't work on their own. Someone has to write firmware, someone has to write drivers, and someone has to write system software for them. So yes, we will definitely need more embedded and firmware engineers in India in the coming years. So no, embedded systems are not dying. But here's a key point: the number of average embedded engineers is increasing, but the number of job ready embedded engineers are still low. So you can see the gap always between the number of people who are applying for the job and the number of people who is actually ready for that job, right? So let's first talk about few myths about embedded jobs in 2026. So first myth I always hear, like embedded system is always for electronics communication engineer basically, or the people who are with electronics background. But that is not true actually. Many strong embedded engineers come from the CS backgrounds, right? And then some will say like they need expensive hardware boards to do practice or to learn the new skill on the embedded system. But that is also not true actually, because interviews will focus on the fundamentals, not on the boards. If your fundamentals are clear, if you have good understanding of debugging, if you can explain the issues which you fixed during your day-to-day task in your current job, or maybe if you are fresher, then the project which you have made during your academics, that will play an important role, right? And the third question I always hear from the people, they say embedded jobs pay very low. So that is also a myth actually, because the company who is hiring for the skilled people, if you talk about the good product based company, let's say Nvidia, AMD, Qualcomm, and there are a lot many embedded system based companies, mostly the product based companies basically. So they really pay very high. Even we have seen people from our boot camp, so they have got 100% hike from their current salary package, right? And why that happened? Because they were having the skills and they performed very well in the interviews. Because of that they could achieve that salary hikes, right? And the other important myth which we have and which we listen from everywhere and everybody speaks about, that like AI is going to replace embedded engineers. But that's not true, right? AI can write the code for the front end or maybe from the back end as well, but AI cannot debug the hardware timing issues, right? And AI cannot debug the memory corruption. AI cannot debug the race conditions or maybe the real time failures. And the other thing is, the companies are not relying upon AI to expose their hardware to them. Basically, let's say if you take example of Qualcomm is developing the chipset architectures of the chipsets. So they will not expose their chipset architectures to the AI, because there are chances of security breach, right? Anybody can hack the AI subsystem and basically get all the details which they want to hide from the external world, right? So that is not going to happen, right? So embedded system needs thinking engineers, not the code generators, first of all, right? So there can be lot many tools you might know, but until unless you have a good thinking or good debugging mindset to getting job or maybe to switch to the new good job will be difficult, right? So now let's talk about what companies are currently testing from an embedded system engineer in 2026. So first of all, companies are not going to, first I will talk about the freshers basically. So we see a lot of freshers coming up with project. They say like they flashed the LEDs, they worked on Arduino projects, and they have watched random YouTube videos, and these kind of projects are not going to help you, right? You have to go one step ahead. You have to move with your skills. You should gain skills in RTOS or maybe Linux kernel and device development if you really want to basically start, if you really want to have a good start in the merit system industries, right? Now for the experienced people also, they should have good understanding of their own core skills. Let's say if they are, you are working on RTOS, so you should have clear fundamentals of RTOS in your mind. If you are working on Linux kernel and device development side, you should have good understanding of all the Linux kernel internal concepts, as well as you should know the actual end-to-end development cycle of a device driver, right? Then let's talk about what are the the areas, or we can say the companies test in the interviews. So the very first thing is C. So you should know low level C. So sometime when I take mock interviews of the people, so they say they know pointer, they know bit manipulation, they know blah 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 lot many things, but that is not going to help. You are not going to, you are not an application developer, and if you only know the topic name or some 2 3 lines about that topic, so that is not going to help. Because being an embedded system engineer, you should know in and out of C. You should know like how exactly the volatile is implemented, what is the actual use of volatile in embedded system projects, right? So from C, your fundamentals should be very clear. You should clear about fundamentals, pointers, memory, data structures, everything should be very clear, right? With respect to RTOS, you should have good understanding of task management in the RTOS, scheduling, and then mutex, semaphore, interrupts handling, everything should be clear, right? And then if you are working on Linux kernel side, definitely you should have good understanding of kernel space as well as user space, as well as Linux kernel internal with respect to top halves, bottom halves, then memory management, right? Scheduling in the Linux kernel. So all those things you should have very good understanding of, right? So what are they going to test in the interview? So they are going to test your thinking, like how you think when some problem is given to you. So how you're going to approach it, or maybe how you're going to debug a particular problem given to you. And they are going to test your reasoning, so how you really think about the problems given to you, right? So you don't need to run behind fancy buzzwords like AI, ML. We have seen the, even the person who has very good experience of working on Linux kernel or maybe RTOS, but because of this social media pressures, everybody is running behind ML. And in their resume also they are mentioning a lot about ML, ML, ML everywhere. If you will ask some simple questions from that ML, nobody is able to answer. So you don't need that actually. You need to work on your fundamentals. So that is enough for you to get it, to help you get a good job, right? So and honestly, this is exactly why many people struggle in the interviews. They study a lot, but not in the structure, oriented way. So that's actually the reason I designed this embedded system into profession boot camp. So in this boot camp, we purely focus upon C fundamentals, RTOS, embedded Linux, kernel basic, mock interview, and then resume prep. So I'm giving the link in the description of this boot camp. So if you are interested, do check out the details of the boot camp. Now the question is from where the embedded system jobs will come in 2026. So the very first thing is, automotive and EV is doing really good nowadays actually. So battery management subsystems, motor control, ADAS support systems. So you can expect jobs around these subsystem of automotive and EVs, right? And then industrial automation is also on peak basically. So you can expect jobs from PLCs, control system, real-time communications. And then IoT is also nowadays you can see IoTs all around now. Even in our homes we are working to design smart homes basically, and we have smart devices all around us. So definitely the jobs will be there from smart devices, low power systems, and the connectivity stacks, right? And Linux based embedded system jobs you can expect like from the router companies, from the cameras, from the networking devices. And first of all, like these all industries which I have just spoke about, these are long term industries, and these are not seasonal industries like today automotive is growing or maybe tomorrow some other industry will grow. It's not like that. At least in the next decade these jobs will be there. That's what my understanding says about the market. So now let's talk about the actual truth, why the embedded systems jobs are not easy to get as well as to perform good in the embedded system job. Because the learning is very hard. Most of the time you will not get to work on the actual technology. Somebody will work on the validation, somebody will just work on fixing small issues, right? So that is the problem we have seen most of the people feel, and that is why they don't clear about the fundamentals. Even though they are working in the industry from 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, but still they are not utilizing their fundamental skills in their day to day task, right? So that is why. And working in embedded system project is really tough because a lot of debugging we need to do, a lot of pain we used to bear whenever we are basically playing with the hardwares. And but the benefit is the hard nature of embedded system is valuable actually. That is why AI cannot replace it so easily, right? So, to give you the final answers, embedded system jobs in 2026 are very much alive. Demand is going to exist, but only for well prepared engineers. So, don't give this excuse to yourself like demand of job is decreasing, and the thing is, companies are now not hiring nowadays, and the calls are very less in the market. So, don't give these excuses to yourself. Instead, start working on your fundamentals because fundamentals matter more than ever. This field reward patience, depth, and discipline. So if you are ready to build a strong foundation, embedded system can give you a solid long-term career. So we are coming up with a new batch of embedded system into preparation bootcamp 3.0, which is going to start from 16th Feb. So if you want to know the details about that bootcamp 3.0, so just comment the bootcamp in the comment basically, and I will reply you with the link of bootcamp 3.0. Maybe the details I will share it with you. So thank you so much for being here till now.